They stood on the edge of a great cliff, overlooking a valley filled with luminous, swirling clouds. The confusion had left Diego's face, but faint traces of earthly doubt still lingered in his eyes. "Grandfather, I understand that wealth is a science," he said, "and that it comes from a certain way, not from my environment or talent. But there's a bigger problem: opportunity. The rich have it all. They've monopolized the wealth and built a fence around it. For someone like me, starting from zero, there's no chance left." Mateo smiled gently. "That is the oldest and strongest fence people build around themselves, Diego. A fence that exists only in the mind. Come." He swept his hand over the valley, and the clouds parted like a grand curtain, revealing vivid images from Earth. First, a vast old steam railroad network appeared. Giant trains thundered along the tracks while a powerful tycoon, looking like the industrial giants of old, smoked a cigar in a luxurious office. "You are right," Mateo conceded. "It would be difficult for you to take control of one of these old systems. This playing field is almost full." Then the image slowly transformed. A small, modern workshop materialized, where a few young people were enthusiastically building and testing cargo drones. "But why should you compete with the giants of the past for a piece of their world?" Mateo asked. "Why, when you can think about developing air transportation? This industry is still in its infancy, creating opportunities for thousands like you." "Opportunity never disappears, Diego. It only changes its form." "But I was a simple driver," Diego countered. "What do I know about drones? A man who works in a steel factory has little chance of one day owning it." "Exactly," Mateo agreed. "But that same worker, if he starts to act in a certain way, can leave that factory. He could buy land and become a food producer. He could start a service business for that very factory. You don't have to play on a field where others have written the rules. You can find your own." Mateo moved his hand again, and the image changed to that of a massive, roaring river. "The stream of opportunity is like this river," he said. "In different eras, it moves in different directions, according to the needs of humanity and the stage of social evolution. A wise person is one who swims with the current, not against it." A flare of the old bitterness returned to Diego. "Does that mean we workers are to blame for being poor? What about the big companies that exploited us?" "To blame is not the right word," Mateo corrected gently. "They were not oppressed, Diego. They were in that position because they did not do things in a certain way. The working class can become the employing class whenever they decide to. The law of wealth is the same for everyone. More importantly, you as an individual are not a captive of the ignorance or mental laziness of your class. You can break away from them and move with the stream." Diego stared at the mighty river, a profound realization dawning on him. All his life he had felt like he was swimming against a relentless current, and now he finally understood the reason for his bone-deep exhaustion. The scene dissolved and reformed in an instant. They were no longer on the cliff but floating in a boundless, silent space, surrounded by cosmic dust and luminous nebulae that bloomed and faded in the dark. "Grandfather!" Diego's voice trembled with the awe of it all. "Even if there is opportunity, there is a deeper fear, a fear that was always with me, that there isn't enough for everyone, that if I become wealthy, it means someone else must become poor, as if the world's pie has a specific size." Mateo gestured with dignity at the cosmic vista around them. "This is the greatest lie that poverty has ever told you. There is no shortage in the supply of wealth, Diego. There is more than enough for everyone. Look, He pointed to the luminous clouds of dust. Everything you see on Earth is made from one original, formless substance from which all things originate. New forms are constantly being made, and older ones are dissolving, but all are just different shapes of this one thing. His voice resonated in the vastness of space. There is no limit to this formless substance. The entire universe is made from it, but it was not all used in the making of the universe. The spaces between all the forms you see are filled with this original substance. 10,000 times more could be created, and still, the universal reserve would not be exhausted. No one is poor because nature is poor or because there isn't enough to go around. Diego's eyes widened in wonder. He looked at his own hands, seeing for the first time that they too were made of that same infinite substance. Nature is an inexhaustible storehouse of riches, Matteo continued. This substance is alive, full of creative energy, and is constantly producing more forms. It responds to the needs of humanity. It will never let the world be without good things. He paused, letting the truth settle. And most importantly, Diego, this formless substance is intelligent. It is a substance that thinks. It is alive and is always impelled toward more life. More life? Diego asked. It is the natural impulse of life to seek fuller expression, Matteo explained. The universe was formed for the advancement of life. Its driving motive is the increase of life. For this reason, whatever contributes to life is abundantly provided. Lack is impossible unless God contradicts himself. They were once again in Matteo's quiet and familiar study. Diego sat in a chair, but he was not the anxious, defeated man he had once been. A deep and profound peace washed over his face. The entire crushing weight of believing in scarcity and competition had been lifted from his shoulders. So, this whole time, he said under his breath, his voice full of a new, staggering understanding. I was living in a self-made prison, while the door to an infinite treasury was wide open. I thought the world was a dry desert, but I was dying of thirst in a boundless ocean. Matteo placed a hand affectionately on Diego's shoulder. Yes, my son, and now you know that this ocean exists. Your poverty was never due to a lack of supply. Those formless resources are available to any man or woman who learns to think and act in a certain way. Diego looked at his grandfather, his gaze clear and determined. I am ready, he said. Teach me how to drink from this ocean. What is the key to this treasury? His face was no longer just hopeful, but filled with a sense of power and inner peace. He was no longer a victim of circumstances. He was ready to be the creator of them.